Welcome to the first episode of the Innovative Marketer Podcast. Who's this podcast for, and what is an innovative marketer? Well, these are great questions, and before I get to answering those, I just want to tell you, you are in the right place at the right time. God's timing is perfect, and I know without a shadow of a doubt, you're really going to enjoy this podcast. This podcast is dedicated to the entrepreneurs that are trying to make a difference in the world. I am your biggest fan, and here's to dominating your personal and professional lives. Hello, my name is Jeremy Coates, and thank you for listening to the Innovative Marketer Podcast. It is not always the best product or services that will dominate an industry. And over the last 20 years, I've learned through my experiences and from the best leaders, copywriters, and entrepreneurs in the world on what it takes to dominate in any given industry. After studying all of the pains and challenges that entrepreneurs face, there are three in their salvation. We call it the Innovative Marketing Trinity. Innovative marketers build their life around leadership, customer value optimization, and systems that allow them to create and have the life of their dreams. We do this because we feel it is our responsibility to improve the lives of those around us. This includes more than just our clients, but our families and teammates as well. We are innovative marketers, and welcome to our podcast. Thank you for listening to this first episode. This is a big one. I'm almost 42 years young, and I've been in business most of my life. And before I go over what an innovative marketer is, I want to first set the stage and give you a quick intro on what we're going to be talking about. First, I'm going to tell you a small chapter of my life, and we're going to go over some of the challenges and pains that entrepreneurs face also, and what makes me qualified to talk and host this podcast. And at the end of the podcast, I'm going to discuss some of the innovative marketing topics that will solve all of these challenges that entrepreneurs and business owners go through. We are going to discuss what an innovative marketing trinity is and what the innovative marketing blueprint is and how it helps entrepreneurs dominate not just their business, but their life also. Now, I'm going to be packing a punch in these first 4 episodes because these first 4 episodes will set the stage and give you a vision of what we're going to be discussing in future episodes. We're going to be covering a wide variety of topics, and I think by the end of the first 4 episodes, you will see how we're going to tie them all together. Okay, so let's get started. Why was this podcast created? I want to share with you my story when I was younger, so you may understand where my passion lies with this topic and how deeply rooted it is. Now, this may take about 10 or 15 minutes, but I think you're going to understand and appreciate where I'm coming from and where I plan on taking this podcast. I'll get into the business part and marketing sections later in this episode, but first I think the best way for you to understand someone is to hear how their childhood was, how they grew up. Because that's where habits are forged. That's where people earn their character. And character is something that I believe you have to earn. It's not given. You see, when I was younger, since I can remember well into college, my parents, they were never home, and that's how life was. And it wasn't because they were bad parents. They just worked all the time. I spent my Sunday afternoons watching my dad leave for the week around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and my dad was gone all week until Friday night after I'd already went to sleep, or he would come home on Saturday morning. And my mom, she would usually get ready for work around 10 p.m. at night and go to work, and I wouldn't see her until me and my sister got home from school after, 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And my mom, she worked night shifts. My parents told me at an early age, probably in 2nd grade, that if I wanted to become someone successful, that I had to get good grades and I needed to get a sports scholarship so I could go to college. My dad, he also told me, like Robert Kiyosaki's dad, his poor dad, to get a good job with benefits. So if you can imagine, I had 2 missions growing up. One of them was to get good grades and the other one was to get a sports scholarship. Now, my parents, my dad actually also used to tell me a lot, if I didn't get a scholarship and go to college, I'd probably grow up and be a garbage man. But my dad's a Vietnam vet, and he's a sergeant in the Marine Corps, so you can imagine. Dad's a Vietnam vet, and he's a sergeant in the Marine Corps, so you can imagine growing up with him. I'm sure a lot of athletes and military kids that are listening to this right now can understand how this story's starting. So let me just skim through this as fast as I can. When I was born, I had a few birth defects, and the doctors told my parents I would never walk. So it's naturally, my parents got me into sports when I was 5 or so years old, and I got to be pretty good. I never knew this until I was in my 20s. My parents never told me I had this defect and I wasn't supposed to walk. They told me I had to get a sports scholarship. But anyway, I got really good, and when I was around 10 years old, my parents had me try out for a classic soccer team where there was over 100 kids trying out for. It consisted of 3 different counties of kids. And I was really excited, but that's what I convinced myself. Tryouts, I made the team at 10 years old. But unfortunately, about a week after I made that team, our head coach was going somewhere out of town, and he was in a car accident and died. And, at 10 years old, I was relieved when I made the team and just so excited. And then when that happened, it was just like, oh my gosh, now what happens, And after about a few weeks, they actually found another coach that would take over his team. And however, this time, the tryouts were going to be held by a professional soccer player named Adrian Brooks. Now, I don't know if you're from Atlanta or you remember the Atlanta Chiefs or the Atlanta Attack back in the 90s and the 80s. Adrian Brooks actually played on the Atlanta Attack. He was one of the managers for the team, and he played. And he also played in the Atlanta Chiefs. I think they were, a team in the early 80s. But so there was a little bit of tension, team, and he played. And he also played in the Atlanta Chiefs. I think they were, a team in the early 80s. But so there was a little bit of tension, trying out for a team by a professional athlete, at 10 years old. I mean, so I was even more nervous, this time around than I was the first time. But funny thing is, I made the team again. And long story short, I ended up playing with Clint Mathis on that team. Later on, he played for the LA Galaxy with a lot of other great players. And we played in a lot of tournaments, a lot of championships. But I learned a lot about life playing in that team. I learned about preparation, traveling and doing the away games. We actually got really good. Adrian taught us how to, when you play on a new field, you always inspect the field. They all have problems. I mean, most kids, I don't know if they get that in depth at 10 years old being trained by a professional athlete. Went to Colorado Springs, and we had to train to get ready for the high altitude, But anyway, so every game was a mission, It wasn't just on the field, but off the field as well. And moving forward, I got into high school, and it looked like back, in the 90s when I was going to high school, that the best chance that I had for a scholarship was going to be playing football. And especially, I grew up with Hines Ward, and there was a lot of buzz around him. He played for Pittsburgh Steelers, but I had a really good career, kicking, playing football. I was a kicker at Forest Park, and, the one thing that I learned about playing with Hines when I was in high school is the coaches, a lot of them, not all of them, but some of them put all of their faith in one player. And I'll never forget his senior year, we actually went 6-4 when we had all the colleges coming out and watching, and we were stuck, with the hardest schedule, and we had to get a new coach. But the funny thing is, we pulled together as a team, and we ended up going 10-0 my senior year. We had some really big games. A few of them, I don't want to brag about myself, but we had a few games that were close. I kicked a few game-winning field goals against Griffin. I think I kicked one in when I was a sophomore. My senior year, we beat Parkview by a field goal. And then I think we played Morrow at Terra Stadium, and we were both 9-0 at that game. And but anyway, long story short, what did I learn from that experience is if there's time on the clock, there's always time for a comeback. If you're alive and breathing, you put your shoes on and it's time to go to work, because it's never too late, As far as my schoolwork in high school, it was tough. I ended up taking advanced classes. I took AP Calc. There's always time for a comeback. If you're alive and breathing, you put your shoes on and it's time to go to work. Because it's never too late, you know. As far as my schoolwork in high school, it was tough. I ended up taking advanced classes. I took AP Calculus and Physics. My grades were good enough to actually get the Hope Grant. And if you don't know what the Hope Grant is, it's paid for by the Mega Millions lottery. So the next time Atlanta has a Mega Millions that's worth $1 billion and you say that you're not going to play, don't be selfish. If you win, you'll get about $500 million in payout. And if you lose, you're still helping a lot of kids go to college. So to me, that's a win-win in my opinion. So anyway, in Georgia, like I said, if you get anything above a 3.0 in school, you'll get some of your tuition covered in college. It may be different now. That was 20 years ago when I was in college. But again, I got the Hope Grant. And the Hope Grant, I ended up walking on to West Georgia because it was only about an hour away from home. And also they had a really good football team, which was very important to me. I wanted to be on a winning team. And they wanted me to walk on, and they promised me that if I started my first season, then that they would give me a full ride. So this was my dream since I was like 10 years old. It was within my reach. The only problem was they had the best ranked kicker in the state of Georgia that was a year older than me. He was a freshman there already when I was being recruited. So I had to beat this guy out to get that scholarship. You know, at the time, I don't know if, you know, that was supposed to scare me, but it really didn't discourage me at all. You know, I've been in tryouts my whole life, and it seems like every day at practice I was trying to earn my spot. I was one of those very high intensity players. You know, when I went out to practice, I knew that, you know, every day I'm out there winning my spot. You know what I mean? So I was excited to be put in this challenge. Remember what I said about character. It's earned. It's not given. So also a mental note is this is the first time in my life that I wish I got something in writing. You know, them saying that they'd give me a full ride if I started because, anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. But, so we accepted the invitation to walk on. You know, in the last summer before I left to camp, I worked at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in Atlanta for Delta. I worked in the bag room. And I also had to get ready for, you know, the summer practice, the shuttle runs. If you played football in college, every summer camp you start with shuttle runs. And if you don't make this shuttle run in a certain time, then they put you on what's called dawn patrol, where you literally run until you throw up, you know. So every morning before practice starts, they'd have a group of people that didn't make that, you know, shuttle run, and they would run them till they threw up, and then you had to practice, you know, 2 days. So you did not want to miss this shuttle run. So after working a full-time job at Delta my last summer and, you know, been practicing very hard, I went to that summer camp. I made my shuttle runs, and I was throwing up when I made them, but I made sure I'd rather be throwing up doing my shuttle runs than throwing up every morning. So, but I made that, and I outperformed about 5 other players. They had a couple players that transferred down from D1 schools to our school, and I ended up beating everyone out and won my starting position as a true freshman in 1995. The best kicker in the state, he had to take that year off for personal reasons. So I kind of felt like I caught a break there, but after told me that he wouldn't give me a makeup test, even though I was going out of town for a school function. So I was forced with a pretty big decision. I was either going to stay and take that test and risk losing my starting position, and risk losing my dream of keeping my full scholarship, or you know, that's what I thought. I was going to get a full scholarship because I was starting, or I would you know, play in that game and take an F my first semester of college and keep my dream alive. So my coaches ended up getting involved. You know, the dean of the department said that because the syllabus mentioned that the teacher didn't give makeups, that there was nothing that they could do. But, you know, I was under the impression that if you played sports and, you know, you had an away game, that would, you know, they would excuse you for that, you know, because I thought I was representing the school. And unfortunately, they didn't see it that way. So let me just say this is, because I thought I was representing the school, and unfortunately, they didn't see it that way. So let me just say this is probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make up to that point in my life. I mean, you have to understand, if you're following my story, you may have thought it's just a test, but the big picture was, I worked my whole life to get that scholarship, and I was forced to make this decision, and I felt like my dream was on the line, and or at least back then when I was making it, that's what I felt like at the time. But let me ask you a question. I want you to really think about this. What would you have done? And I'm sure some of you would have probably missed that game and took the test, and maybe maybe you would have give your dream away. It was a chance that I wouldn't lose my starting position. But here's the thing: if you play sports in college, every week is a tryout. I mean, you may have seen it happen too many times, so I was scared that was going to happen to me. And in fact, a little side story here. About 20 years later, after this happened to me, I actually told this story to one of my oldest niece, before she went to college, and she actually, I told her this before she actually won a national championship ring at North Georgia for softball. And I told her that sometimes you have to realize that sports isn't the rest of your life, and she ended up choosing her career as a nurse the season after she won that national championship because her schedule with sports interfered with her school. And I feel like, I'm not sure if she made this decision because of me or not, but I'm really proud of her for doing that because, sports isn't always a career for most people. And I feel like, I always wondered what my life would have been like if I would have made that other decision. So anyway, back to my story. Needless to say, I skipped that test and I chose my dream like any confused young man would have done, because I really didn't know any better. Sometimes when we have a dream, it's really hard to let it go, even if it's the wrong dream. So this leads me to my next point of this podcast. My biggest problem at this point in my life was I just didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't really have my school major locked down. I just knew I wanted to graduate with a good degree and become rich one day. I thought maybe I could go pro for sports with football, but there was a small chance of that. And I had a dream of getting a scholarship. And the years and years of being told that I needed it and working toward it, I just couldn't let that dream go, that dream of getting a sports scholarship. So I missed the test, finished the season as a starter, and my coach only gave me books and tuition scholarship at the end of that season. So no full scholarship, and I actually lost my hope grant because of that decision I made about missing that test. Because when you start off college, you don't start off with a 4.0. You start off with a 0.0, and whatever you make that first semester is what your GPA is. So fast forward in my NCAA career, after starting for 3 years of football, I started every game. Yeah, I even had one season where I was in the emergency room for I had a lower G-tract infection in my stomach, and I was in the hospital for the week before, like one of our first games. I came out dressed for the game, literally, and then after the game was over, went back in the hospital for treatments. I started every game for treatments. I started every game up to my senior year. And before my senior year, I was within 6 points of breaking the highest scoring record before the first game that year. So up to this point, I did everything that I could do to do right. Everything I could do to reach my dream. And after that spring practice, before my last season, I was invited into the coach's office. That's where they review your scholarship and your performance. And after a short discussion, the new coach that just happened to be my recruiting coach that made me that promise when I was a freshman. He was the head coach now, and he told me that he thought that I wouldn't start my senior year. But here's the reason why. That best kicker in the state, he actually came back, my sophomore year, and I beat him out fair and square my sophomore and junior. But the other kickers were going to go to a Miami Dolphins kicking camp, and it was hosted by the best kicking coach in the country. His name's Doug Blevins. Now, if you're one of those coaches, business coaches, that goes around and blasts other coaches for coaching something they've never done before, you probably wouldn't like Coach Blevins very much, because he's the best kicking coach in the world, and he was even nominated for the Coaching Hall of Fame in 2016, and he's been in a wheelchair his entire life. And I can just hear those haters say, how's this guy the best kicking coach in the world if he's never walked? Well, don't feel bad. I thought the exact same thing about coaches. How do you coach something you've never done before? Until I was actually trained to be a certified coach by John Maxwell. But anyway, so my parents, we just couldn't afford to send me to that camp. Instead, this is what I did my last season of football. I worked 2 jobs during the week. One of the jobs was probably the worst job I've ever had in my life. It was working in chicken houses, picking up dead chickens. There was 8 chicken houses and about 100,000 chickens per house. And every day I would start work around 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'd work till 11 because it got so hot you couldn't walk in those chicken houses. And in the afternoons, I would go to bag groceries at Kroger. Now, I bet you're wondering why I had jobs like that. Well, Carrollton, the city that my college was in, had 2 high schools and a college within 15 to 20 minutes of each other. So there's literally no jobs. Which brings me to my 3rd job that I had the last summer that I played sports. On the weekends, I would drive home an hour away to work at Austin News. This was a place next to the airport. Basically, this was a warehouse where we collected all the different newspapers from other major newspaper companies. They would fly them in on pallets, and I would go pick them up on a big box truck and come back to the warehouse, and we would band up all these different major newspapers for all the different bookstores and stuff like Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that. And I literally would work 3 8-hour shifts on the weekend. That's right, 24 hours and 48 is what I would work at Austin News. I bundled up those things, and it had concrete floors. I mean, you literally was walking around on concrete floors, 24 hours in a 48-hour period. It was rough. And this was the last summer for me as a college athlete, working 3 jobs like that. In my spare time, I got ready for the shuttle. Runs and practice kicking, which was a very stressful summer. But, I practiced to win my spot back for that football team and break that highest scoring record, because now I was just playing for bragging rights. My dream was gone. I would never have that full scholarship for sports. But anyway, this is how my last summer camp went that year. My last season wasn't supposed to start. I wasn't supposed to start. They told me they didn't think I was going to do it, and the best kicker in the state of Georgia was going to the best kicking camp by the best coach. And I worked 3 jobs like that and practiced when I could. So, I shouldn't have started. How could I win my starting position back, right? I was 6 points from breaking that highest scoring record. That's, looking back, I don't know how I did it. But like I said, I hate losing. So I won my starting position back, even though I went through all of that stuff, and you're not going to believe this part. The first game that year, that season, we were already defending champs in our conference. We were defending champs my junior year. My senior year, we were defending champs. So we played Presbyterian College, which they're division up from us, and we ended up going into overtime in that first game, and here you are defending champs. You can't lose your first game. That's not cool, right? So we ended up going into sudden death against Presbyterian, and in sudden death, they had the ball first. They couldn't score. Our defense pushed them back out of field goal range, and so we got the ball the second we got the ball second, and our offense got down within field goal range, and the game was on the line. Going down to the first game of the year, hey, I broke the highest scoring record during the game. They announced it over the intercom. But anyway, so the game's on the line, overtime, right? Defending champs. We can't start the season with a loss. There's just no way, so Presbyterian kept calling timeouts to try and freeze me out, and all I kept thinking was, we're going to win this game, man. We're about to win this game. I felt like God had put me in this position to prove myself. It's just a really weird feeling, and that's all I kept thinking, man. I never for once thought I was going to miss that kick. So they snapped the ball, and 1.2 seconds later, I kicked that game-winning field goal, and it was the first time in my life, it's not the first time that I'd ever won any game kicking, kicks or whatever, but with it all leading up to it like that, and the sideline won any game kicking, kicks or whatever, but with it all leading up to it like that, and the sidelines rushed the field, jumped onto me, man. It was a great feeling, it just felt like it wasn't just the kick that was that feeling. It was just all the stuff I went through, and okay, so here's the we went on to win our conference again that year, and I actually was fortunate enough to play with some great men, and we got 2 championship rings. We never could make it far in the playoffs, and West Georgia's actually got a really great team now. They're always up there. But anyway, so I even had a chance to go play in a Division II All-Star game where they host, it's literally like a game, for the best players in Division II football. I got invited to that, and I didn't go for personal reasons, and I might explain that. Hey, this is around the same time I read, Think and Grow Rich, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. All of these things happened this year, you know what I mean? This was my senior year in college, back to the academics. I started going to college as a pre-engineering major. I went from business to computers to physics and then chemistry. I never knew what I wanted to do with my life. My football career, as great as it, that little story was, it was over. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I know if you listen to Les Brown, I wanted to be comfortable and make a lot of money. And Les Brown has been quoted to say, if you want to be comfortable, the only way you can be comfortable is to be rich. But after my football career was over, I just felt like my purpose was gone. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know. It was because of this. This is the first lesson that I want to discuss in this podcast is how to discover your purpose. Because this is one of the first steps in becoming an innovative marketer. You have to figure your purpose out and help other people do the same. And you can't really help other people, put people in positions of their strengths if you can't put yourself in a position of strength. Life isn't just about making money. It's about making a difference. And when you live with purpose, you get that momentum and the energy fueling your fire. You need to learn this because you have to renew your purpose every so often, because your purpose will change, especially when you have success and you grow more as a person. It never stays constant. And, I didn't realize this when I was younger. I learned this the hard way when I was done with sports. But, as a person, it never stays constant. And, I didn't realize this when I was younger. I learned this the hard way when I was done with sports. But, after I finished my sports career, I kept going after a degree. I was going after a professional chemistry degree because I thought that I would make a good plant supervisor. I signed up to teach freshman workshop courses, in chemistry department at West Georgia, and they actually gave me a leadership award. And then I eventually transferred to Kennesaw and continued to try and get that chemistry degree. And then I just ran out of gas. I was going after the wrong dream. I felt like it wasn't my purpose. I ended up dropping out of college with 6 classes short of getting a professional chemistry degree. And let me just make one thing clear. My grades were not that great either. I mean, I had an A in organic chemistry before our finals. In my classes, I didn't do that great in because I just didn't feel like it was my purpose, And anyway, fast forwarding, I just want to say that, I want you to understand. So fast forwarding to 2004, I started a custom remodeling business because, I felt like I was at that point in my life, I really wanted to get into real estate investing. Like I said, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and some real estate investing books, and I wanted to get in, to remodeling to learn how to renovate kitchens and bathrooms and basements. And I thought, it would help me to flip houses and if I could do that, I thought starting a construction company would at least get me the crews and the experience that I needed for that. And I also got into personal development. Like I said, I started reading John Maxwell books in 98 when his 21 Laws of Leadership book came out. And anyway, I started learning those principles to help me build teams to run, and those principles to help me build teams to run more projects at one time. And I wanted to grow my remodeling business to be able to handle about 15 projects at a time. So from 2004 to 2008, I actually got into some trouble, and I don't want to talk about that right now. I'll talk about it at a later time. But let me just say it sent me down a really long, dark road, another road of finding myself. In 2008 to 2012, I started making progress with construction, and actually never could find a marketing company that I felt was working. So in 2012, I started a marketing agency because the ones that I started, using, they didn't seem to know what they were doing, or they couldn't really prove to me that what they were doing was I was making money back on, which to me, I knew they weren't making me money. I just didn't, I was just really surprised they ran their businesses that way. And I'm not talking small companies. I don't want to name any names here, but I'm talking about nationally known companies. But, what's the point of marketing if you don't make more money than you spend on the marketing, right? I mean, that just made common sense to me. But so many marketing companies don't operate that way with that philosophy. So I invested every second and penny that I had in learning direct response copywriting. I started learning direct response in probably 2009, and how to build websites and landing pages. I started building WordPress sites probably about 8 years ago. But anyway, over the last 6 years, I've aggressively sought out the best coaches and speakers in 3 different industries that brings me with you today. I'm currently still running 2 companies, and I'm definitely not where I want to be at the moment. I feel like I'm starting a new chapter in my life. I feel like I have a new purpose and dream, and, I want to help people grow their business, because I know what I've been through, and that's my passion now, to help other owners and entrepreneurs avoid some of these mistakes that I made early on. And that's the main reason I started this podcast. I feel like I have a ton of value to offer people that are on similar paths. And this is why I want to share my background with you. I run my businesses the same way I played sports. I want to be the best coach and author I can be so I can help the most people become the best they can be. And I just wanted to share with you a small part of my personal reasons that I'm doing this, because this information was not available like it was 20 years ago when I needed it. I mean, things change so fast now. And now I just want to help people that may be a few steps behind me, or that are challenged by some of the things that I was challenged with. And I'd like to, be able to offer some great advice as making up the stuff that I've actually learned, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I've just made a lot of costly mistakes. I mean, I feel like I should be light years ahead of where I am today. I mean, and I'm doing pretty well. I mean, we gross anywhere from, $700 to $1 million a year. But I just don't feel like I feel like my purpose is changing again, and, back when I started learning all these principles and applying them to my life and business, I didn't know what order these principles needed to be used in or how to use them. And that's another reason why I'm doing this, because like I said a few times, I just want to help business owners and like-minded coaches and entrepreneurs like yourself to avoid some of these challenges. It really cost me thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in years of my life. I want to help the younger version of me, if that makes sense. And not younger necessarily in experience that they've gone through. So I can show you how to build marketing and sales systems and funnels. I mean, I was building funnels back before. I know there's a lot of hype around them now, but I mean, even setting up a call center to take calls, book appointments. I mean, people to run appointments and have systems to do the sales proposals and close deals. That's a sales funnel. So I can show you how to do all that stuff digitally. But if you're not clear on your purpose or your dream and you're wasting time and money, you won't be happy. And trust me on this. And another thing I see too is a lot of people get the sales funnel stuff right, and then they can't build teams, or, they need to have their purpose and dreams very clear, because people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. And every good leader has a dream and a vision. So, and a purpose. So I really believe that this is something that needs to be talked about and discussed more often. The marketing and sales it's teachable and learnable by anyone, but you really got to have your purpose and your dreams down. If you don't lead with doing that correctly, you'll wake up 20 years later and either you won't be happy and satisfied where you are, or you'll be successful with money and still feel like you're doing something wrong, which is kind of like, similar to what I feel like now, So if you're coming out of college, if you're finishing up sports, if you want to start a new business, or if your business has hit a ceiling, or if you feel frustrated or lost, or if you're the type of person that wants to change careers and start a new business, you're exactly the kind of person I want to help, because I can relate to all of those times and challenges in my own life. And now that I've learned all this stuff and gotten the training that I've gotten, I want to help other people like you. So next I want to discuss who this podcast is for and, who's going to benefit the most from it. This podcast is going to be for entrepreneurs that are still trying to discover their purpose and dreams. It's going to be for people that will learn and develop their leadership skills from the top to the bottom and throughout their company so they can effectively build teams for their business. And it's also for business owners and coaches and entrepreneurs that want to build marketing and sales plans that will double their business through customer value optimization. Or any business professional that wants to automate their business and implement systems into their life and business. Now, what challenges or pains will be addressed? I had a list of about 50 pains and challenges that I've faced and overcome in the last decade. And now, what challenges or pains will be addressed? I had a list of about 50 pains and challenges that I've faced and overcome in the last decade. And, I made this list, like I said, over just my trials and tribulations, and I was going to mention them here, but I don't have enough time, and I don't want this to be a depressing episode. I don't want to go into depth in the pains and challenges a lot, because there are a lot of them, and I feel like the right thing to do is let's focus on the solutions and the glory that you're going to achieve with the principles that I'll cover. But let me just say this. Most people need help in 3 areas, right? And they all fall under personal development or leadership, customer value optimization, and automation systems. Those are the 3 areas that all of those problems, you can make as big a list of problems that you want in business and in life. They're all 3 going to fall a very small part. I don't want to say small part, but it's a lot of different systems in the overall plan. Customer value optimization is the foundation to build an unstoppable business, like Ryan Deiss and Digital Marketer says. A lot of companies use their principles, and a lot of people don't even realize it. But, the thing is, these 3 areas are what most people need help with, and most people don't know where to turn to or who to trust, which may lead you to ask this next question. What qualifies me to host this type of podcast with this many topics? Well, I just told you a little bit about my story, and most of it was my sports career and, my why and all that. And of course, that doesn't qualify me to teach any of these topics. But what I wanted you to learn a little bit about me and my will, I wanted you to learn a little bit about me. And here's a little bit about my professional career. Like I said, I own 2 companies. I own a custom remodeling firm specializing in designing and remodeling kitchens, bathrooms, basements, and room additions. We have architects, engineers, builders, and all of the trades and subs that work for us to complete any type of project. I also own a marketing agency. It was primarily started because I wasn't happy with the results I was getting from other marketing companies. And I help solopreneurs and business owners learn about customer value optimization. I have 12 courses that I can certify professionals with that's backed by Digital Marketers team and Ryan Dice. I also build custom innovative marketing blueprints for businesses, and I offer one-on-one and group coaching. Now, here's a list of my training with my business skills. I am certified businesses, and I offer one-on-one and group coaching. Now, here's a list of my training with my business skills. I am certified by John Maxwell in leadership training, speaking, and coaching. I'm also a certified Jack Canfield success coach, and I can host events and train in Jack Canfield's success principles. I'm also a certified and verified direct response copywriter by the American Writers and Artists, Inc., which is famously known as AWAI. They are the largest copywriting training company in the world, and I'm a member of their circle of success. I'm also a certified partner with Digital Marketer and Ryan Dice. I've also worked closely with Russell Brunson and his 2 Comma Club X program, and I'm very familiar with ClickFunnels and how to build sales funnels. Now, I am also a student of Michael Gerber, and lead me to introduce you to a concept that I developed over the last 20 years of studying personal development, marketing, sales, and business automation and systems. Now, let me explain. The problem with most programs is they only discuss a very specific problem. Now, I understand why they do this. I mean, who would want to specialize in everything, right? This isn't how you're trained to sell programs or write copywriting. But the problem is, to be the best in any given industry, it actually takes 3 things that I call the innovative marketing Trinity to reach your full potential. It's just like a kung fu fighter must strengthen his body, his mind, and his spirit to reach his maximum potential. It takes leadership, customer value optimization, and systems to reach your full potential in business and life. I call this principle the innovative marketing Trinity. Business and life. I call this principle the innovative marketing Trinity because it involves those 3 areas. Now, I designed this principle because after reading so many books and taking so many courses and certifications, I started noticing that all the best companies and businesses in the world are good at all 3 of these areas. They are essentially only as strong as their weakest area in these 3 things. Now, all of these 3 areas are crucial for you to reach your full potential. And all of the problems and challenges for business owners will fall under one of these 3 categories. Again, I'll list them again. It's leadership. The second one is customer value optimization. And the third one is automation systems. So let me explain each one of these sections in a little more detail. The first section is leadership or personal development. And there are 6 things that seem virtually important for the success of the business owner and his team to learn. The first one is learning the formula for responsibility for the business owners and the employees within the company. Jack Canfield's certification includes a portion of training on responsibility, and I'm going to share that with you along with some of the exercises that he walks you through with responsibility. The second thing that we teach is the purpose, learning your purpose for life and business. And I'm also trained by Jack Canfield and John Maxwell to teach in this. If you can't define your purpose, you're not going to be able to find your business's purpose either. And you won't be able to hire and help employees and your team develop their purpose either. So you learning these principles about purpose, even if you think you know your purpose, you have your purpose figured out in your business, you need to learn how to help other people. I'm saying to help you and help your business, and you help them in return, right? So the third thing that we're going to talk about is how to put your dream to the test, both personally and professionally. Again, I'm trained by John Maxwell. He has a course that I'm certified to teach in how to put your dream to the test. We're going to discuss that. We're also going to go over growth plans. John Maxwell says growth doesn't just happen. It must be planned for. And like I said, I'm also trained and certified to teach in John Maxwell's course on his 15 invaluable laws of growth. Now, the fifth thing that we're going to be discussing would be the leadership development with you and your team. Again, this portion will be based on John Maxwell's philosophy and all the stuff that I learned in my certifications. John Maxwell famously says everything rises and falls on leadership. And I'll be honest with you guys. I mean, I know companies doing 50 million a year. I could count on two hands how many companies doing 50 million a year gross have went out of business. And I could go on and tell you a lot of other companies doing 200 million a year that are getting bought out. It all falls on leadership. I mean, the sales funnels is great. It's not the only piece of the puzzle though, guys. The last thing we're going to discuss in this leadership section is recruiting a championship team and growing it and retaining your key players. I have some really good resources from John Maxwell on championship team building as well as John Wooden. But anyway, so that's what the first section of this podcast is going to discuss. The second section of the Trinity is based on customer value optimization, which is, like I said, it's the foundation of a business that's unstoppable. The customer value of the Trinity is based on customer value optimization, which is, like I said, it's the foundation of a business that's unstoppable. The customer value optimization is the process of building trust and acquiring customers with a low price and high value offer, and then reselling to that same person over and over again and moving them up a value funnel. A lot of companies teach in this, but the customer value optimization that digital marketer teaches is not, no one's teaching stuff like these guys. It's the foundation behind what digital marketer and ClickFunnels are doing. And I know Russell Brunson really good, and I know a lot of the stuff that he teaches is really based on this customer value optimization. I just think digital marketer does a phenomenal job of presenting it in an easy to understand format. This process helps increase the life process over and over again. Now, lucky for you, I'm a certified Customer Value Optimization Specialist by Ryan Dice, and I'm also a certified partner with Digital Marketer. So a lot of that training in this section for the marketing is going to be based on digital marketers training, and as well as some other strategies and tactics that I've learned. This is the strategy that allows any business to outspend their competition on marketing and build a large list of paying clients that you can resell to over and over again. Now, the second thing in this section we're going to discuss after you fully understand customer value optimization will be the best strategies and tactics from direct response copywriting. Now, like I mentioned before, I am a certified copywriter from the best school and company that I could find. Everything that you produce is content, whether it's word. I personally believe that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Everything is direct response copywriting. How you communicate with people is direct response copywriting. It isn't just about making flashy statements and headlines. There's a lot of depth in that. I would compare direct response copywriting to chemistry, because I know in high school you take general chemistry, right? And general chemistry is very difficult to understand. For me, it was. But when you get further up in college in the higher ranked classes, it all starts getting more narrowed down to specific strengths. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to break copywriting up. It's very broad and deep It's a very broad and deep subject. We're going to break it all down into different things. It's just like going to the gym and working out. You got to learn how to work every muscle in your body. Same thing for copywriting. I really think that this is probably one of the most important skills to possess in this section. It's just broad and deep. It's a very broad and deep subject. We're going to break it all down into different things. It's just like going to the gym and working out. You got to learn how to work every muscle in your body. Same thing for copywriting. I really think that this is probably one of the most important skills to possess in this section. It's just like the leadership is in the first part of your personal development. Copywriting, if you learn that skill, and I'm not saying you have to do all your copywriting, you just need to learn it. It helps you connect with people on a deeper level. The third thing we're going to talk about in this CVO section, the customer value optimization section, is how to dominate any space, any market, or any space with the content that they produce. Again, a lot of this is based on digital marketers teaching as well as AWAI, but ClickFunnels does another great job of coaching and training on how to put out content. You know, they produce more in quality and quantity than their competition. So that should be a main focus of your business. If you want to dominate, you need to have a machine, a system that's producing very valuable content and having different ways of systematizing how you do, how to track your data and your key performance indicators in your business. This allows you to know when you can scale up and when to scale back. This is a very, very, very important skill to learn. I've taken a few courses from Jason Hornung and Digital Marketer and a few other people that talk about key performance indicators. If you don't know your data and your numbers, it's hard to know when you need to scale up or when you need to scale back. And it's there's a couple different exercises that teach you how to know what numbers to track. So we're going to discuss that, and also we will be discussing different types of sales funnels and what stages in your customer value journey that you use specific types of funnels. Now, this is what the section of the Trinity focuses on, the second section, which is the customer value optimization and all the parts and pieces that work within it. Value optimization and all the parts and pieces that work within it. Now, the third and final section of the Trinity is going to be the systems and business automation. Every business needs systems and automation to streamline the day-to-day activities. We're going to go over things like cash flow, which helps cash flow stay consistent even through slow months of your business. We're going to go over recruiting and training systems that help attract and train the right type of people in your business. We're going to go over project management and some tactics that will help you manage all the work throughout your company. We're going to cover content producing systems that will help produce all of your content from marketing and stay in touch with prospects and clients. We're also going to go over operations manuals and some of the other documents that you need to possess. So when you start having problems, document those problems and how you solve them, and then that way people that come behind you will have an easier time either avoiding or overcoming problems or challenges. And the next thing is communication systems that helps communicate throughout your company and your team. We're going to go over that. That would probably fall under the project management stuff as well. And we're also going to cover things like auto email responders and email automation, which is the highest leverage system for communication to cover all of the three ways that we're going to cover all of the ways that email can simplify and grow your business. We're also going to discuss things like webinars and video sales letters. Video sales letters are a very important aspect of sales funnels and building new sales funnels in your business. We're going to cover Zoom conference calls. We're going to discuss softwares and apps and how they can help you run your business, and how you can use them to immediately help automate your business, systematize it, and also how you can design an app or a software for your own business and make a huge income for you. Systems help you and your team leverage their time and get more done in less time, and it also reduces the amount of mistakes and the cost of those mistakes. Now, like I mentioned before, I've studied a lot of Michael Gerber's books, E-Myth, Mastery, and I almost got certified to become an E-Myth coach, but I didn't because I felt like I'd already learned a lot of this stuff, and the way that I wanted to present this was a little more powerful than being an E-Myth coach. I felt like this innovative marketing Trinity principle that I had developed was more powerful, and because it includes a lot of other training that most of these systems experts didn't teach. And I know Michael and the other coaches that I had in personal development and leadership and customer value optimization and copywriting was more superior to me. So now that I've explained these 3 foundational sections, hopefully they make sense to you. Doesn't it just make sense for every business to be focusing on all of these 3? If you just focus on one section or 2 sections, you're almost left with a 2-legged stool, and it just doesn't work to its maximum potential. So the main focus of this podcast is the innovative marketing Trinity and how to become an innovative marketer. That is what makes an innovative marketer, the Trinity, in these 3 areas. It's going to be my goal to produce, at least one podcast a week on this, but I'm going to try and produce as many as I can. But now that I've described what the Trinity is and what it involves, can you imagine what your life is going to look like when you incorporate these principles in your life and business? I mean, when you become an innovative marketer, your marketing is going to attract the right clients in your business, and they will keep coming back and spending more money on your products and give great reviews and testimonies about you and your company. When you become an innovative marketer, you recruit and train the right talent for your business that share the same passions, purpose, and dreams that you do. When you become an innovative marketer, your business will have a culture of leadership, teamwork, and everyone takes responsibility and works together. When you become an innovative marketer, your business will have a customer value optimization strategy, and you will know the data and numbers for every step of your sales funnel. When you become an innovative marketer, you are incorporating the best direct response principles in every aspect of your business, and your lead costs are going to continually go down, and your return on investment from marketing is going to go up. When you're an innovative marketer, marketing and sales will always be consistent, and every new season will bring new campaigns, new offers, and keep everyone engaged and excited. This includes your clients, your prospects, and your staff. Now, can you visually see what it's going to be like when you're acting as an innovative marketer? I mean, can you see what I'm talking about? I want you to really stop and imagine what that's going to feel like, because that's exactly what we're going to be focusing our attention on. That's what we're going to be discussing. Now, the one last final thing that I want to introduce before I close this first episode out, and I know it's been a long one, I want to discuss the innovative marketing blueprint. That's exactly what it sounds like. It's a blueprint for your life and business, and here's what it does. This is where the Trinity goes to work for you and your business. The innovative marketing blueprint starts with taking an assessment of where. This is the blueprint. This is where it lays it all out. It's just like a blueprint to build a house in a specific detail in order, and everything is divided up into sections. Just like you can't build a house without a set of blueprints, and the same applies for building your life around your purpose and your dreams, and then build your business around those things. It takes focusing on the Trinity and applying those principles to your life in these 3 areas. Now, I know that I've given you a quick preview of this podcast. I want to really quick, before I close this out, tell you what the next 3 podcasts are going to cover. The next 3 podcasts are going to cover the next 3 sections of the Innovative Marketing Trinity. So the second episode will cover the personal development leadership section. The third one will cover the customer value optimization section, which includes all the parts and pieces of that. And then so the second episode will cover the personal development leadership section. The third one will cover the customer value optimization section, which includes all the parts and pieces of that. And then the fourth one will discuss the automation systems section. Now, very generally, I will go through these topics and outline what we're going to dive into in more detail in the future episodes. But I want you to get a better idea of what each phase or sections of the training will be on for the next podcast. And we will discuss those next sections in a little more detail. But make sure you download the first 4 episodes and get a good understanding of what we're going to be discussing. Otherwise, you probably will get confused. So thanks for joining me on this. I look forward to the journey we're about to take together. Thank you for listening to the Innovative Marketer Podcast. This is Jeremy Coates, and this podcast covers the 3 phases of the Innovative Marketing Trinity. The first phase, learning to grow into the leader that can develop other leaders and build teams. The second phase is customer value optimization, which includes assessments, research, describing your perfect client avatars, USPs, direct response copywriting, designing content that drives traffic, and how to read data and key performance indicators so you know how to scale and when to scale back. The third phase is the automation systems, where you learn cash flow systems, how to recruit and train your team, project management systems, content producing systems, communication systems, and the software and apps that will help you achieve your greatness. I encourage you to download the episodes and listen to them again, and leave me a review, good or bad. I'm here to help anyone that wants to get better, and I am also on a growth plan of my own, so let's take this journey together. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can email me at jeremy@innovativemarketing.pro.